A person wakes up at 2:13 in the morning. The room is quiet. There is no emergency. No sound downstairs, no shadow moving in the hallway, but something feels wrong. So they reach for their phone, not because they need information, not really. They just need proof that the world is still there. A message, a notification, a video of someone talking, a stranger's voice in the dark, anything that makes the room feel less empty. And this is the strange part. Loneliness does not always arrive like sadness. Sometimes it arrives as restlessness. Sometimes it feels like danger. You lie in bed, you stare at the ceiling. You replay a conversation from earlier that day. Why did they answer like that? Why did they take so long to reply? Why did everyone seem fine without you? Nothing is attacking you, but your body does not fully believe that. Your chest feels tighter. Your thoughts move faster. Sleep becomes harder to hold. And for a modern human, this can feel irrational. After all, you are safe. There are locks on the door, lights outside the window, food in the kitchen, a phone in your hand. But the brain is older than apartments, older than streetlights, older than the idea that a human can survive alone in a room and call it normal. For most of human history, being separated from others was not just painful, it was dangerous. And somewhere deep inside the nervous system, loneliness still carries that old meaning. Not as a thought, as a physical alarm. Imagine an ancient human outside the glow of a fire. Behind them, voices fade. Group moves ahead, the darkness opens, and suddenly the world changes. The same forest becomes louder, the same wind feels colder, the same shadows feel more alive. Because alone, every sound matters more. A branch snapping could be nothing. Or it could be the last warning before teeth. This is the world the human brain was shaped inside. Not offices, not glowing city windows. A world where survival depended on belonging close enough to hear another person breathe. And that changes how we should understand loneliness. Because loneliness is not simply the mind saying, I wish someone cared. It is the body saying something is unsafe. This is why being excluded can feel strangely physical. A group chat goes silent after your message. Someone you love replies with one cold sentence. You walk past a table of people laughing, and even though they are not laughing at you, something inside you folds inward. You tell yourself it does not matter, but your body reacts before your pride can explain it away. The face gets hot, the stomach tightens, the mind starts searching for what went wrong. And here is where loneliness becomes unsettling. The brain does not treat social pain like a small emotional inconvenience. It treats it like information about survival, a warning signal, a possible loss of protection, a sign that the invisible net around you may be breaking. That is why rejection can hurt in the body, not because humans are fragile, but because humans were built to survive through each other. And this creates one of the strangest contradictions in human life. When we feel lonely, we need people more, but we often trust them less. A lonely brain does not simply become sad, it becomes watchful, it begins scanning. A delayed text feels heavier than it should. A neutral face looks colder than it is. A short reply becomes evidence. Someone says, I'm busy, and the mind hears you are not important. This is not always logic. It is threat detection wearing the mask of social awareness. The brain begins searching for rejection before rejection has fully arrived. And sometimes it finds it everywhere, in tone, in pauses, in the way someone looks away for half a second too long. This is why loneliness can make ordinary life feel emotionally dangerous. The grocery store feels brighter and colder. A cafe full of people feels like proof that everyone belongs somewhere else. A party feels less like connection and more like a room full of measurements. Who noticed me? Who didn't? Who left first? Who forgot to ask? And the cruel part is this. The same system trying to protect you can push you further away. You become careful, then guarded, then distant. You want connection, but you prepare for rejection, so you answer late. You act indifferent. You pretend you are busy. You convince yourself you do not need anyone. But the body is not convinced. At night, it still reaches for noise, a podcast, a video, a familiar voice, not because silence is empty, but because to the lonely brain, silence can start to feel like exposure. And over time, loneliness begins changing something even deeper. Not just thoughts, the body itself. A person spends the entire day exhausted, even after sleeping 8 hours. They wake up already tense, already alert. Coffee helps for a while. But at night, the nervous system refuses to fully power down. The mind keeps moving. Tiny worries suddenly feel enormous in darkness. An awkward conversation, a message left on read, a memory from 6 years ago that somehow returns at 1:47 a.m. for no reason. And this is where things become strange. Lonely people often sleep more lightly. The brain becomes harder to fully calm. Because deep in human history, isolation at night was dangerous. A human sleeping alone was more vulnerable, less protected, less defensive, less likely to survive surprise threats in darkness, so the nervous system adapted. It learned to stay partially awake, partially listening. Even now, modern humans still do this. You hear a tiny sound downstairs and instantly wake up. You sleep better beside someone you trust. A dog sleeping near the bed feels comforting in a way that is difficult to explain logically. But the body understands it immediately. Presence means safety, and absence changes biology. Not metaphorically, physically. Studies have found that chronic loneliness can increase stress hormones for long periods of time. The immune system changes behavior, inflammation rises. The body quietly enters a more defensive state, as if it expects the world to become harsher. And the unsettling part is, modern loneliness often happens while surrounded by millions of people. A human sits inside a crowded subway car, bodies inches apart, and yet emotionally the person feels completely unreachable. This would have been almost impossible for most ancient humans to understand. Physical closeness once meant social closeness, now it doesn't. Now a human can spend an entire day surrounded by voices without feeling seen once. And humans adapted to this strangely, not by solving loneliness, but by building artificial forms of presence. Look at modern life carefully. People sleep with televisions on. They play podcasts while cleaning empty apartments. They listen to strangers talking while falling asleep. Some people keep live streams running for hours without even watching them. And at first, this behavior feels meaningless. But it may reveal something profound about the human nervous system. The brain does not only crave information, it craves nearby humans, even simulated ones. A voice in the room changes how silence feels. Background conversation softens isolation. A cafe full of strangers can feel emotionally safer than a silent apartment. And this is why complete silence can become uncomfortable surprisingly fast. The human brain evolved surrounded by breathing, movement, footsteps, fire sounds, whispering, sleep noises from nearby bodies. Humans rarely existed in total isolation. So modern loneliness creates a bizarre situation. For the first time in history, humans can become socially deprived while constantly overstimulated, always rarely emotionally held. And eventually, loneliness begins distorting something even more personal. Your perception of yourself. A person reopens old conversations late at night, not because they enjoy the pain, but because the brain keeps searching for answers. What changed? What did I do wrong? Why did they stop caring? And the mind loops again and again. This is one of the hidden effects of loneliness. The brain becomes trapped in social simulation. It replays interactions repeatedly trying to predict future pain, trying to prevent abandonment before it happens again. And humans do this constantly. Someone listens to an old voice message after a breakup. Someone stares at old photos even though it hurts. Someone imagines conversations that will probably never happen. The brain keeps returning to unfinished social wounds because, to the nervous system, social bonds are not small emotional decorations. They are survival structures. And when those structures crack, the mind struggles to let go. But here is the darkest part. Loneliness changes time itself. Hours feel longer. Nights feel heavier. Silence becomes louder. A single apartment room can begin feeling emotionally enormous after midnight, especially when nobody is expected to walk through the door. And suddenly, small human behaviors begin looking different. Why people instinctively call someone after bad news. Why humans cry harder alone. Why eye contact can calm panic faster than logic. Why simply hearing someone say, "I'm here," can change the entire emotional temperature of a room. Because the human nervous system was never designed to regulate itself completely alone. And maybe that is the real discovery hiding underneath loneliness. Not that humans dislike being alone, but that the human brain was never fully built for isolation in the first place. Connection is not just emotional, it is biological regulation. A child falls asleep faster when hearing a parent nearby. A frightened person calms down after hearing a familiar voice. Someone sits beside a hospital bed and says almost nothing, yet the entire room feels different. The nervous system responds to presence before language even arrives. And humans do this constantly without noticing. Friends eat together after difficult days even when nobody has solutions. Couples fall asleep touching without thinking about it. People instinctively move toward crowded places during emotionally difficult periods. Not always to talk, sometimes just to exist near other nervous systems, because proximity itself changes the body. And this is where modern life becomes psychologically strange. Human biology still expects tribe-level connection, but modern environments often simulate connection while quietly removing it. You can scroll through thousands of faces and still feel emotionally starving. You can receive notifications all day and still feel invisible at night. You can spend hours consuming human voices online, while nobody actually knows how you are doing. And the brain struggles to understand this contradiction. Because from an evolutionary perspective, visibility once meant belonging. If people saw you, they probably knew you. If you heard voices nearby, you were probably part of the group. Now those systems are disconnected. And the nervous system keeps trying to use ancient instincts inside a world they were never designed for. This may explain why some of the most emotionally powerful moments in human life are surprisingly small. A hand touching your shoulder during grief, someone waiting for you to get home safely, a dog quietly sleeping near the door until you return, a friend saying, "Text me when you get there." These moments feel bigger than they should. But maybe they are not small at all. Maybe the human brain recognizes them as evidence of protection. Evidence that you are not facing the world entirely alone. And loneliness makes humans realize how deeply they depend on this, not intellectually, physically. That is why heartbreak can destroy appetite, why isolation can distort sleep, why grief can make the body feel weak, why humans sometimes cry harder after finally reaching another person. The nervous system holds tension differently when alone, and releases it differently when connection returns. Even eye contact changes biology. A calm face can reduce panic, a trusted voice can slow the heart. Another regulated nervous system can help stabilize your own. Humans are constantly affecting each other internally. Breathing patterns, stress levels, emotional states, all sinking invisibly beneath conversation. And once you notice this, ordinary human life starts feeling different. A person sits alone in a dark apartment again. The same room from the beginning, the same silence, the same glowing phone screen beside the bed. But now the loneliness looks different. Not weaker, not dramatic, ancient. The viewer begins realizing that modern humans carry nervous systems built for a world where isolation could become deadly very quickly. And traces of that world still live inside ordinary emotions, inside insomnia, inside overthinking, inside the strange comfort of hearing another person in the next room. Maybe this is why humans build cities full of light, why cafes feel comforting during rainstorms, why people leave televisions running while sleeping, why silence can sometimes feel heavier after midnight, and why the sentence "I'm here" can calm the body in ways logic cannot explain. Because somewhere beneath modern life, the human brain is still listening for signs that it has not been left outside the fire. And maybe that is what loneliness truly is, not simply the absence of people, but the nervous system quietly wondering if it has become separated from the safety it was built to survive inside. So tonight, someone will fall asleep beside another breathing human and feel calmer without fully knowing why. Someone else will replay old conversations as alone in darkness. Someone will leave a podcast running all night just to hear a voice nearby. And millions of humans will continue performing tiny rituals against isolation, without realizing how ancient those behaviors really are. Because the modern world changed almost everything about human life. But it did not change this. The human brain still believes that survival feels warmer when someone else is close enough to hear breathing in the dark.